guys, it's Neil again from Heart of Texas Armory, and today I want to bring you guys a video review of one of my favorite Casio watches. This is the Casio MTD-1010, the Casio Submariner. So yes, this is a homage to a Rolex Submariner. So join me today and find out why I love this watch so much. So taking a look at the specs here of the Casio MTD-1010, you'll probably notice that the specs are pretty much spot on with a Rolex Submariner. And that's a good thing because the Submariner is just about the perfect watch size, particularly for a dive watch. It'll fit just about anyone's wrist size. So looking at the specs here, we've got a 40mm case, we've got a 20mm lug width, 48mm lug to lug, and a thickness of only 10.5 millimeters, so very thin. The weight on this steel bracelet you see here is 118 grams. We do have a mineral crystal here, so no sapphire, but you can see this one's held up pretty good. Mineral will scratch easier than sapphire, but it's still pretty durable stuff. Water resistance here is only 100 meters, although that's good enough for most of us here unless you're going to take this thing actual scuba diving. It'll certainly handle snorkeling or anything like that. The bezel here is really nice. We do have an excellent grip, and it is a 60-click unidirectional bezel. And the construction here is typical that you'd see on most dive watches. We have solid stainless steel construction here. This is a quartz watch here, and the battery that it uses is a 364. So that's a look at the specs here. So the Casio MTD-1010 is actually an homage of what I consider to be the greatest of all the Rolex Submariners, and that is the pre-ceramic Submariner reference number 16610. So the pre-ceramic ones here, they don't have the modern super case, which I'm not a huge fan of that particular case style. The pre-ceramic ones have the more elegant case. The lugs are not as chunky. To me, it just is a better looking watch. So this here, this Casio, is an homage to that particular Rolex, and I really like that about it. It also has the drilled lugs here, so makes it a breeze to change out bracelet if you change out the bracelet or did anything like that. Makes it a breeze having those drilled lugs, and I think it fits the watch perfectly. Aesthetically, the watch is very similar to a Rolex Submariner, so in fact, this thing is almost spot on. When I wear this watch, quite a few times now, I've had people ask me if it's a Submariner. And out of all the Rolex Submariner homages I've ever worn, I think this is the most faithful of all of them, besides the movement, which is a quartz, but how it looks aesthetically is very, very similar to an actual Rolex. Now the bezel here, it's a little different because this is a 60-click where the Rolex is obviously a 120-click unidirectional. But I will say that the bezel is a joy to use. It's very, very smooth. Just feels really nice, and the grip is exceptional, just like an actual Submariner. So they did a really good job on the bezel, even though it is only 60-click. The crown here is push-pull, so it's not a true screw-down crown, which is a little bit of a negative, which leads to that 100 meters of water resistance. But I will say I have used this watch in a pool. I've taken it to the beach, and I've even taken this watch to Slitterbahn. So I don't know if there's any people watching my videos that live in Texas, but Slitterbahn is a massive water park, and I spent 8 to 10 hours there with this watch, and it held up just fine. So I think it'll handle everything besides pretty much scuba diving. Now the brushing and the overall aesthetics are really done really nice on this watch. I really like that radial brushing on the top of the case. We do have a polish on the sides. The case back here is pretty standard, but I will mention it is a screw-down case back, which is nice. So that's a nice feature as well. Now the bracelet here, this is a original bracelet to this watch, and it is very comfortable, works just fine, but it is a bit rattly. So keep that in mind if you purchase one of these that has the original bracelet. It is a little bit rattly, but it is comfortable. Lume on this watch is actually surprisingly good considering the age. These watches were made in the late 1990s all the way to probably about 2004, 2005, as far as I can tell. And the lume is still good. In fact, it's pretty exceptional in my opinion for a watch of this age. The initial charge is very bright, and the lume lasts throughout the night, which is really nice. And taking a closer look at the dial here, you'll probably notice that everything is really well done. Pretty much all of the MTD watches that Casio released in the early 2000s are just exceptional watches. The build quality is really good on them, and just taking a look at the dial here, you'll notice that the hour markings are well done. Everything is precise, well applied lume. We do have a frame date window, which is really nice. And of course, we already talked about the bezel, but you know, it's just well done for the price point. And I'll go ahead and mention the price on these. Now, these are not in production anymore, so you can only pick these up on the used market, say like eBay or something like that. But they come up from time to time, and you should expect to pay anywhere between $30 and up to maybe about $100 depending on condition. So a watch like this in the condition you're seeing here, you probably would expect to pay around $50 for, which to me is an excellent deal. And we'll close this video review out with a few positives and negatives. So with the positives, you know, I think this watch here just offers a great value. From anywhere from between $30 and say $75, this is an excellent purchase. So if you're interested in a watch that looks like this, I say go for it. And definitely if you find one for a good price, you should definitely pick one up. We do have a quartz movement here, which I'm a big fan of quartz movements, and you're going to get accurate and reliable timekeeping, which is a good thing. I also like just the overall dimensions of this watch. So the 40mm case size, the 10.5mm thickness, it's just very comfortable to wear on wrist. It wears very flat as well. Also, I'll have to mention the drilled lugs, which is a nice feature. You don't typically see that on a watch in this price point, so having drilled lugs is a nice bonus to me. And it's also just a good alternative to the current Casio dive watch, quartz dive watch, which is the MTD-1010 Duro. So that one, excellent watch. I actually have a video review of that on my channel if you're interested. But this one here, I definitely prefer over the Duro because to me, the dimensions here are much better. So this is a smaller watch. You're looking at 40mm versus, I believe it's 44 on the case on that Duro. So this one just wears a lot better for my wrist size. So I really like that. Now the negatives, there's really not a lot with this particular watch, but I will mention that there's no screw down crown, which is a bit of a bummer, but I've never had a problem with water getting into this watch, even with using it in quite a few water activities. So the 100 meters of water resistance is a bit of a negative. Also, there is no sapphire crystal with this. It is mineral, which is not bad, but obviously I would prefer to have sapphire crystal. And then the only other thing I'll mention is that the bracelet, while comfortable, is a bit rattly, so just be prepared. Just like a lot of vintage watches that come with steel bracelets, they're rattly as well, but this is no exception. It's going to wear like a vintage watch in that regard. But overall, you know, the Casio MTD-1010 is just a great vintage watch from Casio. If you're able to find one of these on eBay for a good price, it's in good condition, definitely pick one up. I highly recommend them. They come in the black color here you see here, and also in blue, and I've even seen them with a white dial. So there are a few variations, and be on the lookout for those too. But you know, these watches here are just a great buy. If you're looking for a very accurate homage to a vintage Rolex Submariner, a pre-ceramic vintage Submariner, you know, this is a definitely good choice as long as you're okay with the quartz movement. But if you have any questions or comments about this watch, feel free to leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take care.